Zora from SteelersDepot.com. Here to talk to you for another week to break things down. I'm posting this on Friday because I'm not around today, as in Friday, for the live stream, live chat. We will do that tomorrow, as in Saturday, for about 3 p.m. Run that for about an hour. So if you are around and want to hang out with us and watch some coaches film and talk some Steelers football, you can do that tomorrow, 3 p.m. And you can look for the link on Steelers Depot or subscribe to my YouTube channel, Alex Kazora, and you'll probably be the first to know that that's happening. And as you are now, if you're watching this, I'm recording this on Thursday, but it'll go up Friday. Anyway, enough about that. What I wanted to talk about today, and I was kind of sitting here racking my brain thinking, what in the world are we going to talk about? Because this is an Eagles game. Well, obviously, it's a beatdown 34-3 loss, and there's everything to talk about, and there's nothing to talk about because, I mean, you just lose in every phase. It wasn't a single play, it wasn't a single concept or a side of the football that cost this team the game. It was all three phases. So I was sitting there, I'm thinking, man, what can we even talk about here? I try to stay away from some of the individual breakdowns because I think they're pretty obvious and we cover them pretty well anyway. Matthew and Dave, guys like that do a really good job talking about the individual. I try to look at some of the scheme stuff. So, I know I've talked about this a lot, and maybe some of you are getting a little tired of it or just want to move on and hope it gets better. But I did want to kind of marry this video with what I wrote about, and I'll link it in the article on Depot and in the text or the link to on this YouTube channel in the description. Marry kind of the video here with the problems I've seen with the Steelers pass rush. This is not going to be as solution oriented. It's going to be just kind of identifying some of those problems. I have a couple plays here we'll go through fairly quickly just to kind of give you a better idea because, with still shots and the occasional gif, it can be a little tough to pick up on of what kind of the issue is with the Steelers pass rush. And, of course, we all know this is an issue. 1 sack in 3 games. That's the first time that's ever happened in Steelers history, since sacks have been an official stat in 1982. And we know this team doesn't win without a dominant, pressure package and usually a dominant edge guy. The latter definitely won't happen this year, but you hope you can still get some pressure and kind of manufacture it the way that we saw last year. It almost got the team to the AFC title game. So I want to start here. Again, we're going to go through several plays. We won't spend too much time on any single one of them because they're not incredibly complicated, but I do want to talk about it. This first one, we're going to focus mostly on schematic problems or issues that I see. And again, I understand that I know how much I don't know in the sense of this is from an outsider point of view. I'm not in Keith Butler or Mike Tomlin's head. This is not supposed to be that I have all the answers. This is just, my opinion. We all have opinions. I understand that without all the information, it's impossible to know for certain what's going on and the exact sources of the problems. And there's layers and layers and unintended consequences when you try to do things. And you're doing things with the front to help with the coverage. It's all kind of married and intertwined for most teams. But this is just my opinion of it. But we're going to focus here is just going to be a schematic or an individual breakdown or issue, and it kind of sums up the whole day in general with not getting a pass rush. This is just going to be a four-man rush. You get a little bit of pressure look here off the side with the linebacker stacked here. You got Ryan Shazier and Arthur Moats. Shazier almost always drops though, so it's almost become ineffective because usually he's going to drop into coverage, and I think he does so here. Yeah, it takes the number 3 receiver, but yeah, bad snap between center Jason Kelce and Carson Wentz. Usually that's going to be able to create some pressure because obviously now snap to throw is going to be extended by 1.5 seconds. Now it does take a nice bounce for Carson Wentz, which is fortunate for him and them. But it just kind of makes me laugh though is that he was this bad snap and he still has the cleanest pocket in the world. By the time he tries to throw this ball, and it is a short game, they rallied the football well. I think that's Shazier making the tackle. Yeah, Shazier on Sproles. But I think it's a microcosm for the game of a bad snap and still just the prettiest pocket ever that you could have. Now, yeah, Hayward does end up kind of shedding the left guard here, kind of late, but one issue, and I'm probably sure you've seen the first couple of times here, is on the side here with Jarvis. Let me right here with Jarvis against Jason Peters, and Peters is a great left tackle, but it's just kind of ugly here from Jarvis. He tries to win inside, tries to do that little outside rush, and then kind of arm over to the inside, and Peters just throws him away, and Jarvis ends up back by the center. Obviously Jarvis has not been the pass rusher that anyone hoped he would be. Not trying to criticize it too much. I think we've done that enough. But that's one kind of issue of it. But yeah, that's just a player. You're like, man, it's a bad snap. It's a great opportunity to force a throwaway or a hurry throw or some pressure and nothing. And that's just kind of sums up the day, I think, in a single play. We'll move on now. A couple plays later in this drive, and one thing, because they're trying to get a four-man pressure, and they know they don't have the best edge guys to do that, so they're trying to be creative. How do we get a four-man pressure, without doing just a standard four-man rush? And they're doing some different things with this. What we're going to get here is, and this isn't uncommon. They did this last year. Sub package. You're going to get head up nose tackle with Hayward. You're going to get to it as a contained player, kind of that 5-eye over here, and you end up kind of moving the linebackers. You get Jones and Moats stacked. Jarvis, I think, ends up kind of taking a step inside. But the problem here is most of the time that the Steelers have had this alignment, especially in this Eagles game, it's not been a straight rush. There hasn't been any sort of blitz. It's always just kind of some sort of stunt between the D tackle, the nose tackle, and the inside linebacker, the outside linebacker moved off ball. And you're going to get that here. You're going to get Jarvis as the crasher, Hayward as the looper. When you're running a four-man rush, you have 3-on-2. You have guys that have active eyes. Eventually got to the point where I think the Eagles were anticipating that when they saw that kind of alignment. And they were able to pick it up. They know they're going to start looking for it. They know they're going to get a stunt of some sort. I mean, there are 5 or 6 examples in this game of that, just because they don't have the guys that can win one-on-one. So you run that through again. Hayward, he's got to wait for Jarvis to come through. So now he's got more time. He's got to take. The guard's able to pick it up because he knows Jarvis is going to stunt. To it, I think a big issue here, and I get why they do this. To it has to be the contain guy. They always have to have a contain rush, but now you take Tuitt out of being a real pass rusher. Now he's kind of, trying just to contain the play, be the barrier here. And plus, he's going against a tackle now. He's got the size and the length to match up against the ends and the athleticism. You can't overpower him the way that you can, say, Jason Kelsey, who's 6'2", 300. Now Peters is 6'6", 330. So it's a big difference, and it's harder to win that way. You're getting chipped by the running back Sproles here. So Tuitt's out of the equation. Hayward had to wait. Jarvis is going to get a push. The line's expecting it. So basically, the only hope you have is that your linebacker on the edge here can win on one-on-one. That's Arthur Moats. He can't. It's a clean pocket. And this is a third down. This is 3rd and 12. And the Eagles were terrible 3rd and long, and they complete the pass there. They move the sticks, and I think they get a field goal off this drive, I believe. So I know why they're doing it, but it just doesn't really seem to be working. And to bounce off of that, some of the contain rushes too have broken down, and it's created some good throwing lanes and some escape lanes, and that's kind of been frustrating as well. Some very basic kind of contain principles, and maybe that's why they're not blitzing as much, because they're worried about not being able to contain it, and if the quarterback gets an escape lane or something. I'm not really sure, but we'll look at it here, kind of mid-late second quarter. And I know there's some play action here, but you're bringing a blitz. Here's Mike Mitchell coming down. On a safety blitz, which is something that has been fairly uncommon for Keith Butler, especially bringing a defensive back. I think it's happened 10 times this year. But he's trying it here. And, you have a chance to get some pressure, but you totally lose contain to Wentz's right side. Wentz, of course, is a right-handed quarterback. I mean, you don't want to give him contain anywhere, but especially not to the quarterback's handed side. Jarvis gets sealed inside. Tuitt's coming down. They're stunting Hayward. I guess because they're dropping McCullers, they've done some weird run stunts and different kinds of looping and stunting. But you just, you totally lose contain. So there's a chance to get pressure there. James Harrison gets under the left guard, Alan Barbre. But now there's a huge contain lane. So there's nothing in coverage, nothing available for Wentz. It's covered well, but now you have a huge contained lane, and Wentz takes off downfield for a 10-yard gain. And I think this might come on 3rd down too. I can't remember. Yeah, this is, no, it's 1st down actually. I was looking 3 and 10. It's 1st and 10, but still, you give up that chunk play on 1st and 10. We'll run through it again. I'm not really sure what happened here. I guess the play actually maybe got them to bite, or just kind of the way the line blocked. But either way, you don't have a contain rush on that pass play, or what it turns out to be a pass play, and it gives Wentz that escape lane. So even the times that you brought pressure, you haven't been able to bottle that up. So when we talk about bringing pressure, you have to have that kind of contain. And so while I understand, last year they would have Tuitt, like we showed in that last or that first play, Tuitt being the contain guy, that's fine if you're bringing pressure from the other side. But when you're not able to, when you're only running 4 and you're not bringing pressure, that contain guy is almost useless. And In here, you try to bring pressure, and you don't have a contained guy, so you're getting, the worst of it both ways. So I'll let that run through the rest of the way. It's a nice game by Carson Wentz, who's a good athlete. He picks up the first down. Late first or second quarter here, first half. Click through to the right play, 1st and 10. This is an example of one of the few 5-man pressures that Keith Butler ran. And, that way there's no help. They're not getting double teams. The guards aren't able to look and help the center. And this is something you might want to see a little more of. And I get the unintended consequences to it. You're trying to rush 4. But here, it's just a straight rush. You're going to put your best on their best. And you get Vince Williams one-on-one with Jason Kelsey, the center. And he's able to shed him. He's able to get under him. Now, the ball comes out, and, Wentz makes the throw. Ends up being incomplete, so it's contested. Mike Tomlin's happy there on the right side of your screen. Let the inside linebackers do that. Instead of moving Jarvis or Moats or Harrison or whoever, off ball to try to get a little cute with them. If you want to rush anybody, rush Timmons or Shazier or Vince Williams one-on-one. Drop an outside linebacker instead. Have the outside linebacker replace the inside linebacker's coverage, because those are guys that have rushed from the interior more often. I think they're just better at it. Shazier has the athleticism. I think Timmons, is creative and crafty and able to win. He's been doing this for 10 years now, and Vince is a pretty strong guy. They're just not really working with Moats and Jones and even Debo. It's not really what he wants to do. He wants to try to get under you around the edge. That's his calling card. So instead of stunting and wasting time, especially with these quarterbacks who are throwing the ball quick, it's hard to when try to do all this creative stuff when the ball's coming out within 2.5 seconds. You just want to try to get a straight rush, hope you can win on one-on-one, collapse the pocket, move the launch spot, do something than trying to get a little too creative with it. But watch it again. Vince Williams one-on-one with Kelsey, gets some pressure. Ball has to be contested. Burns makes a play. There's a happy Mike Tomlin. So that's a positive there, and something maybe you want to look at more. You can do that with rushing 4 even, and just drop the outside linebacker, and the tackle ends up kind of maybe helping the end, but you can maybe get a chance to win up front. With that inside linebacker one-on-one on a center. A couple more plays I want to look at. I think 2 more. We'll go into the second half now. And this kind of bounces off the last thing I said about these stunts with a 4-man rush. If you want to stunt and slant with your 5-man pressure in some of your fire zones, that's going to be natural and totally cool with that. But some of these 4-man rush, it's just not really working, and it takes too much time, and the effectiveness isn't there. The spacing's been poor overall. We'll take a look at it here on a 4-man stunt. The Steelers run. It's Tua trying to be the crasher, Hayward trying to be the looper. But again, because the tackles, they know they can win one-on-one. They're not going to get any sort of help there. A chip from the running back, if anything, it doesn't happen here. So then you have 3 over 2. And you have linemen. They know to find work. They probably study some of these tendencies. So Tua's getting pushed. He's now doubled. Hayward has to wait. He's got to be the second guy on that stunt. He's got to wait for Tua to come under him. And when the ball's coming out quick, by the time he's able to get that one-on-one opportunity, the ball's already out. Tua has made what? Let's count. I haven't even counted. But how many steps does Hayward take by the time he's finally actually able to engage and wait for Tua to pass before the ball comes out? Let's check it out. So here's Hayward. He's taking 1 step, 2 step, 3 step. He's basically on his 3rd step, and the ball's coming out. And it's up, being dumped off to was that Green Beckham or Jordan Matthews actually. So Hayward's as good as he is. I don't care who you are. You're not winning within 3 steps, especially when you have to wait on a stunt. It's just not going to happen. So some of these 4-man stunts, I get you're trying to be creative. You're trying to look for different ways to get pressure because your 4-man rush straight up has struggled. But this isn't really working either. And I don't believe that this is all Tomlin. I think the easy answer is to say, well, this is Tomlin and it's Tampa 2 and yada yada. I don't think it's that. I think that both Tomlin and Butler recognize that you have to be able to find ways to win with your 4-man rush because you can't rely on your 5-man rush and your fire zones. You can't use that as a crutch. That's what happened last year. This team was very open about it, and I totally get that. And I believe that this is not Tomlin changing the defense. I mean, I saw this team in training camp. They still have these fire zones. They're still, very much in the playbook. They had entire, 11-on-11 sessions in camp where they ran nothing but fire zones. So I've seen still every single fire zone in the book from this team. It's still in the playbook. It's not that it's morphed. They're just trying to find that way to get pressure with a 4-man rush. Obviously, it's not working. Obviously, something has to change. But I can understand the rationale behind it. I'm not trying to destroy them and say, what are they doing? How could they do this? This is the stupidest thing ever. They're trying to do what they said they need to do. It just hasn't worked. We'll let this run through one more time, though, then we'll get to our last play here. And I think the video's running a little bit longer than I thought, but I get on my soapbox sometimes, and you guys know that. So last play here, late in the third quarter, because they barely even threw the ball. I think they threw the ball maybe once in the fourth quarter. This is actually a positive thing. This is why, as tough of a pill it might be to swallow, sometimes you just got to run your four-man straight-up rush and let Tuitt and Hayward kind of do their things. Those are still your two best pass rushers right now. And even if they're not going to get sacks, they're going to be able to get pressure and collapse the pocket and move the launch spot and do some of those things. So here you get just a standard four-man rush, and you're going to watch Stephon Tuitt here lined up as the one tech. He ends up being one-on-one here with the right guard, Brandon Brooks. And he shows some good leg drive, and he's able to collapse his pocket a little bit. Now he ends up getting called for a face mask here. It's a roughing the passer call. That's unfortunate, but that's what are you gonna do? It's an individual thing. It's not a schematic thing. He still wins though. He collapses the pocket. He's able to get some pressure. Wentz makes a nice throw. I'll give him that. Cockrell makes a great play to play the pocket and rip that ball out. But sometimes you have to let those guys win their one-on-one battles. Again, if you're using them as stunts and contain guys so much, if you're doing that, I don't know, 7 to 10 times a game total, that's 7 to 10 snaps where they're probably not going to get after the quarterback unless the line really kind of breaks things down. The O-line really has some trouble. And if you're only doing four-man stunts, the line's, you got more active eyes. There's less chance for a breakdown. If you're doing some five-man pressure, now you have a much higher chance because all it takes is one lineman to be a little late with his eyes or confused or out of position or playing with poor technique trying to recover and lunging. Now you get some serious pressure. When you're doing it with four-man rushes, it's a lot harder because now you're getting 3-on-2 offensive line in advantage. And even if one guy's a little slow, you're probably going to have help elsewhere to kind of be able to keep the pocket clean. But Tuitt with a nice leg drive here, able to collapse the pocket. Those guys have won some one-on-one battles. Tuitt especially, Hayward a little bit as well. Tuitt's gotten some pressure. He's not playing terrible, at least as a pass rusher. Run defense might be a different story. But I think he's kind of getting used ineffectively right now, which isn't outside of the scheme, but given the problems the pass rush is having, you have to start sacrificing and changing that scheme and just getting back to some basic stuff or to it and letting him play to his strengths rather than keeping with some of the scheme stuff that you were doing last year. Same with James Harrison. He's dropping into coverage too much. He's not playing enough. I would love to see James Harrison to start this Sunday. Move Jarvis Jones to left outside linebacker if you really want to, start Jarvis Jones and play him a lot. And clearly, this team does. But James Harrison is your best edge guy, and he needs to play more and to drop into coverage a whole lot less. He's dropping into coverage about 30% of the time this year. I think the right outside linebacker drops into coverage more than the left. The numbers last year kind of tell that story. I understand schematics, and it's not as easy as just snapping your fingers and saying that, but the pass rush is first. You can fix the other stuff. That's all secondary. You have to get a pass rush. I think Debo has to play more. I wrote about that earlier this week. I wrote about the need for five-man pressure, how quarterbacks are averaging, or teams are averaging under 5 yards per play against five-man pressure, how they're completing 27% of their passes. The numbers from last year with a much larger sample size tell a similar story, so it isn't a sample size issue. We've gone through that throughout the week, so I think it'll change. I think there'll be some differences. I think it's just picking those plays out of the playbook. They're still very much there. There's no doubt about it. We've seen it all 3 weeks. We've seen a couple of those glimpses of Butler being aggressive, but much more far and few between than what we did last year. And I get it. I totally get it because they knew they couldn't rely on that all the whole way. But considering the really bad state that the Steelers pass rush is in right now, 1 sack, last in the league. Everybody else has at least 3. Steelers are on pace for, I don't even know how many sacks, 15, which would be their lowest ever. The record right now is 19 from 1988, which was a pretty sure terrible year for the Steelers. So anyway, I just wanted to go through a couple of those plays. I know it's tough to stomach for you and me both, but it's the number one root issue. And I've been talking about this, even before Dupree went on IR, but especially right after I wrote about it and said it's the number one concern for this team right now. How are they going to get a four-man rush? And clearly, so far, they haven't. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to stick with Depot the rest of the time. And like I said, we'll be here for the live stream on Saturday. Around 3 p.m. for about an hour. So if you can come by, hang out, that's awesome. If not, you can always watch the archive on Steelers Depot or my YouTube channel. And so thank you guys for watching, and we will talk to you next time.